I'm Stephen Williams, and my wife Sarah and I are fired up to be planning a church here in Central Oregon. It's going to be called Bend Community Church. Our mission is making Christ-like disciples in our communities. Making disciples happens best in small groups. This church is going to be focused on small groups. We're going to call them community groups. The community groups are going to meet every week on Sunday.
We'll still have large group gatherings where we bring together the community groups for corporate worship and preaching. And those will likely happen midweek when a lot of churches are not being used. So we'll partner with local churches.
In addition to the large group gatherings, we're going to take small groups, the community groups, to another level. We call them supercharged groups. So we're going to really undergird support. The vast majority of the resources of this church will be poured into the small group, into the community groups. And they'll most likely happen in our homes, but they might happen anywhere the Lord has called people and is gifting people in our culture. For example, they could happen in cafes, in businesses, in Phil's trail parking lot, wherever the Lord is passionately calling people to make disciples, to reach the lost with the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's where those small groups are going to happen. That's where those community groups are going to happen. And that's where the focus and the emphasis of this church will be.
We'll have super equipped home groups too. Our community groups will have children's ministry and great child care to help families be able to gather together smoothly and worship together and focus on discipleship.
This is an alternative model of doing church. We partner with churches that focus on the corporate large group gathering, and this church is going to be focused on the small group gathering. And there's great movements going on across the nation. For example, the Church of the Nazarene has an organic church network that's developing. Many denominations are talking about this. For example, Dr. Tom Rainer, he's president and CEO of Lifeway, that's part of the Southern Baptist Convention. He was just interviewed on Christian Post in January of this year. He said this: in 2014, we will see a decided shift from nearly 2 decades of the, quote, worship revolution to the, quote, small group revolution. Church leaders are rapidly discovering that members who connect to groups are the most faithful members in the church by a myriad of metrics. That is not to suggest that worship will become unimportant. It is to suggest that small groups will have a greater emphasis than the previous quarter century. Whether it's quotes from Dr. Rainer in Family Life, or George Barna wrote a book called Revolution, and he says this: a faith revolution is redefining the church. What we see in demographics, in trends, in studies of our culture is that there's a coming trend that small groups, that relational communities, that things happening in transparent, discipling relationships is what many people are yearning for and longing for. And that's going to be the focus of Bend Community Church.
We're excited about what God has in store for Bend Community Church.
We are fired up for what the Lord's going to do with this church plan, and I'm so excited to be planning it with my wife. We love the Word of God, and Jesus in the Great Commission said, "Go therefore and make disciples." That's our heart, is to have these community groups in a church that is undergirding and supporting small group focused ministry. And so we want you to get more information and check out Bend Community Church. Our mission: making Christ-like disciples in our communities.